It was kind of where I went first. I looked around and realized, okay, we're going to need forests, we're going to need a sense of Appalachia, we're going to need a variety of different things, including the talent pool that you pull from, like where are your extras? What is that going to be like? And so there were a few obvious candidates.
Well, I think we were attracted to the idea of shooting the movie in the part of the country that is where Katniss is from, and that the District 12, and getting the real feeling of her origins, that was very attractive to us on a creative level.
And so once you narrow down where you can shoot, then you start looking at what makes sense fiscally.
You know, people don't realize this now, but we were under tremendous financial pressure on this movie. I mean, it's under $80 million. It's a really, really big movie. I mean, other tentpoles probably cost twice or three times as much as it. And so, you know, we had to be clever about that.
But we wanted it to feel very definitively American, and we were able to find that in North Carolina.
And it's always helpful to have, you know, to really be dealing with the elements instead of just shooting in a studio. It just brings a lot more to the movie than you would think, because you picture it in your head, and then when you're actually seeing it, when you're actually seeing the woods in North Carolina, they're so dense and so beautiful. And I thought that was what was so interesting about the movie, is that you have this beautiful landscape where kids are killing each other and dying. I just loved the irony of being in such a gorgeous place with something so horrible happening.
The first day of shooting was actually the scene where it's the flashback where Peeta goes out and he tosses the bread to Katniss, who's in the rain. And I mean, honestly, to start off our franchise shooting that scene was huge, because that's like one of the whole reasons that Katniss ends up trusting Peeta, is because she keeps on looking back to this moment where she sees his humanity towards her and she sees that he cares.
It's such a massive part of what this is, that when you know that you're okay that way, and you know that it's going to be the way you imagined it, it's just such a weight off your shoulders.
The town was called Henry River, and it was an old mill complex with workers' housing that was from, we think, about the 20s. And it was little individual structures, little duplexes, and the mill was long gone that these structures serviced, but it basically was workers' housing for several hundred people on this piece of property that, when they moved out, whenever it was, maybe the 40s or something, the place went into disrepair. And the state film commissioner brought us out to see it. Like, is this, you know, would this be of any use to you guys? And I was like, this is gold. This is the seam. I mean, Gary and I walked out there, and we had obviously seen a lot of pictures before we went there, but we're like, this is the seam.
It's really hard to create squalor on film from scratch. And we were very lucky to find this place in Henry River, North Carolina, that had been a company mill town. One of the things that I think was so riveting about the book was there was this growing sense of tension that led to this quiet moment in this large open square when Effie reached in and pulled out that single name.
The major construct there was the Hall of Justice, which we built as a facade.
It established, I think, a really, really interesting look for the place.
What we wanted to bring was a bit of the Capitol aesthetic in the Hall of Justice, a sort of like brutal intervention into their world. So every time they pass by this place, it's like an outpost. You know, it's a little bit of the Capitol there. It's a little bit of a foreshadowing of the Capitol architecture.
Asheville's a very special place. It's sophisticated, it's eclectic, it's different than any city around it. And we got to spend the summer in the woods there, which was an incredibly special time.
I loved Asheville. It had a cool kind of almost hippie sort of downtown vibe, like stuck in the middle of the mountains. So it was beautiful scenery with amazing food and really nice people.
Sometimes being out in the woods, you did feel like you were completely away from civilization. There would be places where you were shooting where you couldn't get cell service. But there's also something kind of great about not always having that contact with the outside world.
It was like a summer camp. It really was. It's like you make friends that I still keep in touch with now, and I feel like I will be friends with for the rest of my life.
Going to work in the woods every day and, you know, having a tree stump or a rock instead of a trailer or even a chair at times, you know, and hiking into work every day, you know, you're subordinated to this amazing thing around you, and that's what you really want as a director. You want to feel as if you're really in the place and that you're a part of it and that you're not making a movie, you're capturing something that feels kind of real. And there was something very special and also private, I gotta say. Look, you know, as I said before, we're doing things a little bit differently than a lot of franchises do them. And I think the sense of privacy that I had and being alone in the woods, I think it emboldened me to keep making the movie I want to make. And I don't know if I'd been on a studio lot if I would have felt the same way. I think I might not have, you know, because, you know, you're going to drive by offices in the morning, you're going to be subjected to a kind of Hollywood value system that I didn't feel when I was making the movie ever. I just felt like, you know, I don't mean to make myself sound like Kurtz off in the woods, but I mean, I felt private. And that's the greatest thing you can feel when you're making a movie, is that sense of privacy to follow what you want to do.
Now hug him! Now cut, let's go home!
Order now on demand.